The 2021 college football season is getting closer and closer, and the first week of the season will be here before we know it. There are a lot of great matchups this season, but we get some really good ones in the first week. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the 10 best matchups of week 1 of the 2021 college football season. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to the channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. If there are any videos you'd like to see in the coming months, drop a comment down below and it very well could be my next video. We have ourselves a battle of two of the best group of 5 teams in college football over the last few years, Boise State and UCF. This game will take place on Thursday, September 2nd at UCF. This will be the first ever meeting between these two programs. This is a home-and-home series with the Knights set to travel to Boise in 2023. UCF is coming off their worst season since 2016, but last year they still had one of the top offenses in the country. They were 8th in the country in scoring and averaged 570 yards per game. Plus, this is going to be the first game for Gus Malzahn as he took over for the Knights after leaving Auburn this offseason. Last season, the Broncos finished with their lowest winning percentage since 2015, even though they still went 5-2. Former Boise State linebacker Andy Avalos takes over at his alma mater after Brian Harsin left to become the head coach at Auburn. Both of these teams will likely be battling it out all season in order to earn a spot in a New Year's Six bowl game. And what better way to kick off your campaign than with a week 1 matchup? This will be a fun and competitive game for sure. Up next, we have an inter-conference battle between North Carolina and Virginia Tech. After getting off to a 4-2 start last season, the Hokies really spiraled out of control as they lost 4 of their final 5 games. However, it's still Virginia Tech, and they will be playing under the lights at Lane Stadium. Regardless of how good the Hokies are, it's always going to be a tough matchup. And I'm very high in North Carolina this season. I really do think that there's a solid chance that they can compete with Clemson for the ACC title. They have themselves a tough matchup to begin the season, and a loss right away can really impact their season. Virginia Tech will begin the season with North Carolina for the first time since 1946. Virginia Tech has won the last 2 home meetings against North Carolina, including the longest game in ACC history, a 6-overtime 43-41 victory back in 2019. We have another solid interconference matchup here, with Penn State hitting the road to take on Wisconsin. Both these teams will likely be fighting for a spot in the Big Ten title game all season long, so they'll have a chance to kick off their 2021 seasons on the right foot. 2020 was a weird year for Penn State, as they went from being one of the worst teams in college football to being one of the best. After losing 4 straight games to begin the season, they rattled off 5 consecutive victories and were playing like one of the hottest teams in the nation. Wisconsin had a weird season as well, as they were hot and cold for most of the season. They won 2 in a row, then lost 3 in a row, and then won 2 in a row to close out their year. Not counting last year's entirely Big Ten schedule, Penn State is opening the season against a Big Ten opponent for the first time since 1994, and Wisconsin, they're opening up the season against a Big Ten team for the first time since 1995. The next game has a chance to be potentially one of the best games of the entire college football season, or the most likely outcome in that Alabama is going to win by at least 30 points. The Tide and the Miami Hurricanes will kick off their season in Atlanta. Alabama is the reigning college football national champion, and they'll likely be going for the repeat this season. Miami is coming off a very impressive 8-3 campaign after 2 really disappointing seasons. There's a strong chance that they can have quarterback De'Ara King back and he'll defer this game. If they do, they stand a chance of covering the spread. If not, well, hopefully children won't be watching this one. This will be the 18th ever matchup between these two programs, with the last one coming in the 1993 Sugar Bowl, in which Alabama won it all. The Tide is 14-3 all time against Miami. If the Hurricanes are ranked, this will be the first ever regular season matchup in which both these teams are ranked. We have another interconference matchup with Big Ten teams, as we'll have Indiana and Iowa squaring off. Iowa leads the all-time series 45-28. Dating back to 2008, Indiana has only beaten the Hawkeyes 1 time. Well, they'll be looking to change that in 2021. Indiana had arguably the best season in program history in 2020, and they're going to be looking to build off that strong campaign. Tom Allen has done an incredible job turning this program around, and there's a strong chance that they could be competing for a spot in the Big Ten title game this year. Meanwhile, Iowa is looking to build off their strong finish to the 2020 season. After they lost the first 2 games by a combined 5 points, they closed out the season on a 6-game winning streak. They were playing some of the hottest football in the country. Both these teams will be competing for the Big Ten title in 2021 and even potentially a playoff spot, so a loss in week 1 could potentially crush those hopes instantly. Before we get to the other 5 matchups, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it. It really helps share the video with more college football fans, and it only takes a second to do. Last season, Louisiana kicked off their year with a win on the road against a ranked Big 12 team. This season, they're going to have a chance to do the exact same, as they're going to go on the road to play Texas. This will be the 3rd matchup between these two teams, with the previous 2 being absolute blowouts. Both teams met in 2000 and then again in 2005, with the closest game being a 42-point victory from Texas. But I have a feeling this matchup will be a lot closer. Last year was the best season in the history of the Ragin' Cajuns program, as they finished the season 10-1 and ranked. They'll be returning a lot of talent and very well could be a top 25 team to begin the season. Meanwhile, we have a brand new Texas team. Tom Herman is gone and Steve Sarkisian is in. Texas has quite the test their first game of the season, and Louisiana has a prime opportunity to prove to the country that they are a legit group of 5 team. For the first time in the storied history of both their programs, UCLA and LSU will face each other. For the first contest, they are going to play at the Rose Bowl, and this will actually be the first time LSU has ever played at the historic venue. This will be the first time LSU has begun the season against a Pac-12 team since they faced Oregon 10 years ago. The last time the Bruins opened the season against an SEC team was back in 2017 when Josh Rosen led the insane comeback against Texas A&M. UCLA is looking to get their season started with a bang, as they haven't finished above 500 since 2015. However, this looks like it has the potential to be the best UCLA team in years. Meanwhile, flipping over to LSU, as they're coming off a somewhat disappointing 2020 campaign after winning the national championship in 2019. After arguably the best team in college football history, they went 5-5. Although both of these teams aren't at the top of their game right now, this will still be a fun matchup between 2 historic teams who have never faced each other. We have another matchup featuring 2 historic programs, with this being the 11th career meeting. Florida State and Notre Dame are going to meet up, with the Noles having a 6-4 series edge. Notre Dame has won the previous 2 matchups after Florida State won the previous 3. This contest will actually take place on a Sunday, so you're going to be able to get your college football games all weekend. By far the most notable matchup was the 1993 contest that was titled the Game of the Century. Florida State came in as the top-ranked team, but the 2nd-ranked Irish emerged with a 31-24 victory thanks to multiple late defensive stands. Another battle when both these teams were ranked in the top 5 took place back in 2014, when the Irish were 5th and the Seminoles were ranked number 2. Florida State came out with the victory, 31-27. The Irish are fresh off a playoff appearance in which they managed to cover the spread against Alabama. I don't think that they're going to be a playoff team in 2021, but they'll still be a top 15 team for most of the season. Meanwhile, Florida State is looking to finish above 500 for the first time since 2017, when they only won 7 games. They have Mackenzie Milton at quarterback now, who finished top 10 in Heisman voting twice while he was at UCF. He'll be the best quarterback they've had in years, so hopefully he'll be able to guide the Noles to a winning season. Mike Norvell had a disappointing debut in 2020 as he went 3-6. Things can only get better though for Florida State. At least you'd assume so. Still, this will be a matchup between 2 of the best teams in college football history. Speaking of college football on a Sunday, how about some Monday football? Louisville and Ole Miss will battle against each other as part of the Chick-fil-A Classic. This will be the first ever matchup between these 2 teams. Louisville last opened the season against an SEC team in 2018 when they lost to Alabama by 37 points. Ole Miss last opened the season against an ACC team back in 2016 when they lost to Florida State by 11. The Rebels are coming off a 5-5 campaign, but they won 4 of their final 5 games to close out the season. Many people are actually pretty high on Lane Kiffin and this Ole Miss team, as some expect them to potentially make some noise in the SEC. Meanwhile, Louisville is looking to bounce back from a very forgetful 2020 season. After they won their first game, they lost 6-7 and finished the season with only 4 wins. Finally, we have the best game of the week and potentially the best game all season that isn't a playoff game. Georgia is going to travel to Clemson to take on the Tigers. This very well could be a matchup between 2 of the top 5 teams in the country, and we're getting it in week 1. This will be the 60th matchup between these 2 teams, with Georgia leading the all-time series 39-16 with 4 ties. These teams used to meet almost on a year-to-year basis, but this is going to be only the 5th matchup since 1995. The last time these teams played was back in 2014, with Georgia picking up the win at home. In the history of this matchup, both teams have only been ranked inside the top 10 once, which was back in 2013. This will be only the 8th matchup where Clemson is ranked, where it's going to be the 18th matchup in which Georgia is ranked. As I mentioned, this game will have massive playoff implications. With a win, either team will have arguably the biggest resume booster in the entire country should they need it at the end of the year. A loss in week 1 likely wouldn't completely ruin a team's chance of reaching the playoffs, but it certainly isn't an ideal start. We're going to be seeing a brand new Clemson team who won't have Trevor Lawrence. We're going to be seeing a Georgia team who looked like an upgraded offense once JT Daniels took over. These are without a doubt two of the best 3 to 4 teams in the entire country. And again, we're getting this in week 1. Not only is this the best game of the first week, this could be the best game of the entire college football season. So, what game are you looking forward to the most? Is there a matchup in week 1 that I didn't talk about that should be on this list? Drop a comment down below and share with me your thoughts. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you never miss another college football video. If you enjoy content like this, then this is definitely the place for you. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if there are any other college football videos you'd like to see soon, drop a comment and I very well can make a video on it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.